I am here to proudly tell you that I am a language fangirl, someone who is intensely curious about what language does and about what language use can tell us about ourselves and about other people. You see, I think there's benefits to being a language fangirl, and I'm going to explain why I think fandom is something that is a useful tool for language learning. But before I go any further, I want to clarify something. While I've used the gendered term fangirl in my talk today, I realize that that does not apply to all of you. So I would also like to explain that you are welcome to be a language fanboy or simply a language fan. All of these terms are applicable to what I'll be talking about today. However, since I am a language fangirl, let's make sure we understand what that term means. A fangirl is a female fan, or someone who is overly or extremely enthusiastic about someone or something. By a show of hands, who here is a fan of something? I suspected as much. Whether it's a television show, an actor, a type of music, or a sport, many people within Western Canadian society are embracing fandom in different ways. However, there is still sometimes this negative impression of fans as obsessed individuals, geeks who love sci-fi, nerds who have toys. As an anthropologist or someone who engages in the study of all people at all times and in all places, I am most enthusiastic about what people do with language. In fact, I have a hard time staying calm when talking about language use, as my linguistic anthropology students will tell you. As a result, I consistently have the highest scores on my teaching evaluations for enthusiasm. My enthusiasm has led me down a path to other language fans, the fans of constructed languages, which are also known as conlangs. Some of you may recognize these conlangs: Klingon, created for the Star Trek series; Na'vi, created for the movie Avatar; Dothraki, created for the television series Game of Thrones; Esperanto, an international language created to help promote world peace. And finally, the language that I helped develop for Superman's newest movie, Man of Steel, the language of Kryptonian. As a language fangirl, I was curious how these newly created languages, many of which were developed for pop culture, were capturing the interest of fans and acquiring new speakers. For instance, one overly exaggerated news story from 2010 stated that there were thousands of individuals learning Na'vi in Australia alone. How, I wondered, could the Na'vi language have acquired so many speakers in such a short period of time, when there are indigenous and minority communities around the world who are fighting to maintain their languages and to acquire new speakers? The Ethnologue, a catalog of the world's languages, tells us that there are 7,102 languages spoken around the globe. However, as many scholars have stated, the majority of these languages are endangered, which means that some of them are no longer being learned by children as their mother tongues, and some of them have very few numbers of speakers left. And some of them are on the verge of disuse due to forced silencing through colonization, including residential schools, and other overt cultural influences from globalization. National Geographic's Enduring Voices project provides us with this grim statistic. Every 14 days, a language dies. This project has also documented what they call language hotspots, areas in the world where there are many languages on the edge of extinction. In the face of all of these gloom and doom predictions about languages, I think it's even more important to be a language fangirl. In fact, most of my academic research has been working with Indigenous communities who are fighting to maintain their languages. With the Taku River Tlingit First Nation, I've worked to develop tools that will help them learn their Tlingit language, including a Tlingit language board game, and these signs, which are placed throughout their territory at British Columbia's recreation sites, which now include Tlingit place names. With the Kala speakers of Papua New Guinea, I helped community members to decide on which symbols to use in their new alphabet, because until 2010, they were an oral language that had never been written down. So, back to my original question. How could the Na'vi language have acquired so many speakers in such a short period of time when these Indigenous communities are fighting so hard to maintain their languages? So, in order to answer this question, I conducted a survey online with Na'vi speakers in the summer of 2011. 293 individuals replied to my survey within 6 weeks in 7 different languages. And I learned much about who the Na'vi speakers are and how diverse they are in age, gender, education, nationality, and many other aspects, including fluency levels. 30% of Na'vi speakers stated that they were intermediate or advanced speakers of Na'vi. I also learned why they were learning Na'vi and how they had managed to do so in the 18 months between when the movie came out and when I conducted my survey. What I learned was, as this CBC News article about my research states, the Na'vi language had garnered real-life fans. Shortly after this news article came out, I was given the opportunity to help develop the Kryptonian language for the Hollywood movie Man of Steel. Right before the movie was to premiere in June of 2013, Warner Brothers released this website called The Glyph Creator, where you could answer a series of questions to receive your Kryptonian name and your shield, which was a glyph in Kryptonian. Immediately, Superman fans from around the world realized through the analysis of the Glyph Creator that a real language had been developed for the movie. And not only that, they were able to figure out 95% of Kryptonian sounds through analyzing the written script. Immediately, and once again, I saw that fans can take any little piece of language available to them and learn it and puzzle out the meaning. So, let's get back to this idea of fans, language fangirls, and language learning. In looking up fangirls, fanboys, and fandoms in general, I discovered some basic steps on how to be a fangirl. First, pick a fandom or something that you are specifically passionate about that you share with a group. Second, meet people who share your interests, who are a part of that fandom. Many fandoms are now on the internet, making it even easier to join a fandom no matter where you are in the world. Third, research your fandom. Hang back and observe the group and learn how they interact there before jumping in. Fourth, contribute to your fandom. Participate in discussions. Make things to help support the fandom as gifts for your fellow fans. And fifth, be respectful. Many people are fans of different things, as we saw in the room today, and some fandoms have differing opinions about what is correct for that fandom or what should be included. Now, how does this apply to language fandoms? In the case of the Na'vi speakers, the language of Na'vi was their fandom, but many of them were also originally fans of the movie Avatar. Individuals stated that it was the welcoming community at the Learn Na'vi website that encouraged them to stay and learn the language. Research has shown that the most successful language revitalization projects are ones where people are truly passionate about their language. In other words, when there is a fandom. Developing a fandom where people are enthusiastic and welcoming might help other language communities to develop new speakers. As I said earlier, fans are often ridiculed as these obsessed individuals, but meeting others who are obsessed as you are could help develop a better language learning environment. In 2011, the Na'vi speech community was developing around the world via the internet. And even today, they are, for the most part, a digital fandom. Digital technologies could also be useful for indigenous or minority communities, where community members are no longer living in their home communities. For example, one of the tools that I have helped the Taku River Tlingit First Nation develop is a Tlingit Place Names website. Individuals have the opportunity to use this tool to learn Tlingit names of places in their territory, as well as other Tlingit words for lands and resources, no matter where they are in the world. Some of the Na'vi speakers I surveyed told me that they were lurkers on the Learn Na'vi website before they began to participate. When one enters the forums on the Learn Na'vi site, they are greeted, "Kalti, guest, why don't you join our community?" Developers of language learning websites need to be sensitive to lurkers and to try to engage them as they participate and research their fandom. With our Taku River Tlingit Place Names website, individuals are welcomed first in English, and then in Tlingit it states, "Yake yikwasatini," it's good to see you all. Fandoms are also known for making gifts of time and effort that they exchange with other members of their fandom. In the case of the Na'vi speakers, they were developing dictionaries, grammars, activity books, fan fiction, radio programs, and much more in multiple languages to reach their community members around the globe. Other language communities could also model this tool because making something helps people learn in ways that memorization does not, as I've seen in the tools that I've helped develop, including board games, storybooks, websites, and many other items. And finally, be respectful. Part of what made the Na'vi community a welcoming one was the level of respect shown for everyone in the community. There were no disparaging remarks for beginner as opposed to advanced speakers, and this was encouraging for all. Everyone benefited by having more speakers. Different dialects can be a challenge for endangered language communities as people strive to figure out what is the most correct dialect to learn, especially when there are no mother tongue speakers left of a particular language. But healthy language communities often have a wide range of dialects. Just look at how many dialects of English there are in the world today. So, being respectful to anyone who is learning a language, no matter what dialect they choose to use, is important, or the risk remains of other community members choosing to remain silent. Speakers of constructed languages, like the Na'vi speakers I surveyed, are often ridiculed as obsessed fans of many different things, but they have had to be resilient in their language learning as fans of these languages. For indigenous and minority language communities, they have also had to be resilient in the face of colonization, globalization, and other encroaching languages. So what I'm arguing here today is if more people are fans, passionate, enthusiastic fans of languages, then we will have more speakers of these languages around the world. I encourage everyone to embrace their inner fan and to explore the different paths that your fandom might lead you down. As I said at the beginning, I am a language fangirl, and the more of me there are, the less likely it will be that a language will disappear every 14 days. And the more likely it will be that languages around the world will remain into the future.